back to another episode of the ADHDads. I'm your host, CJ.
And I'm JJ.
And we got a packed house here today. So if you hear the holiday music blaring or the kids pop up in the screen, that's because we're getting ready for the holidays, buddy.
Nice.
2 days away from Thanksgiving, we're going to release this episode. So yeah, man, how you preparing?
Well, I just want to first say, the activity is bustling in your house because I see your brick background flowing like a flag right now. So
Yeah.
For a little behind the scenes, those are not real bricks.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a good episode that we could touch on today because, it could be a stressful time of year for a lot of folks. And man, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, JJ, doing this podcast. So that's pretty cool. And we started our first episode was talking about the holidays. So here we are with your Christmas tree set up in the background again, talking about the holidays.
Yeah. I mean, it's an important topic, and I think the thing is that one thing that we stress as human beings is habit and repetitions, and putting in the work. Whether we're talking about our fitness journey or just talking about our sanity journey. A big thing is like circling back to what works, what's challenging, how do you get through the tension and stuff. And it's sad to say the most joyous time of the year is usually the most stressful time of the year for most people, right? So how do we manage that? That's a big one. And then, of course, as we ourselves have the personal experience with neurodiversity in our families, there's additional layers of challenge that we have to manage. And one of the big things that I honestly have experienced time and again is that you can tell people or you can talk to people about neurodiversity, whether it's autism or ADHD, and they'll be like, yeah, I know that stuff. Like I know what those are, and I've seen people who have it, or I know somebody who has it. But what I like to stress is that you've seen autism in an individual, or you've seen ADHD in an individual. So in other words, you see an individual, but sometimes you forget about how that actually looks from scenario to scenario. So yeah, we're not going to see the same exhibited behaviors from any one person to the next, even if they have this label of neurodiversity. So when we come into the holidays and we're bringing our neurodiversity with us to family, or even just like the atypical when it comes to a routine, like that's going to bring natural tension and stress to anybody. And then the neurodiversity on top of that, I don't know, just think about it from this perspective. Like, oh yeah, I've seen autism and ADHD, and sometimes that involves like heightened emotions and stuff. Well, self-control is also something that looks different from one individual to the next. And I think that's what a lot of people forget. It's like, how do you respond to somebody who is in their emotional state, who's struggling with the regulation, when we already know this is part of their regular like exhibitive behavior, but now we're adding on top of that a completely different shift in their day-to-day with the holidays. So we can be trying to have joy the whole time, but we're also demanding something from neurodiverse people and from ourselves, demand that we do not do the day in and day out that we typically do. And that naturally brings the word tension into the equation. So that's why we talk about this again. We got to continue putting in those reps, right?
Yeah, because we talk about the most useful technique in this neurodivergent journey is routine and persistence, right? And the holidays is a huge disruption of that, let alone forget the family and the emotions of our kiddos and, all the things, the regulation that we have to manage there between the people in our lives. But, traveling can be a huge stressor too. When we went to Puerto Rico last summer, and it was a 12-hour plane ride. Oh my God, it was our worst day.
Bless you, sir. Bless
you. It was
you.
our worst day as a family. Our flight got canceled. Our standby flight got delayed. Half of our family got split up. We missed our flight and our layover, and it took us 18 hours to get home. And when we finally did at 3 a.m, everyone was wrecked. There was no regulation to the emotion. Everyone was falling apart, and so it was hard. It was like, what can I learn from that? and expectations is at the forefront of that, and yeah, that just that awareness of that disruption of bedtimes, of time changes, of routines and family and bedroom settings, it's a lot. So, and not only do we have to help everyone around us emotionally regulate, but we have to be conscious of emotionally regulating ourselves during this process, right? That's the most important one. We can only have so much control over the family members and over the kids and the spouses and the travel delays, but that's where we really got to concentrate. So how do we do that, man? With all the stress going on.
Well, you just made me think of I'm working through a script for a film as you were talking about that. Like, you got Home Alone, Lost in New York. Well, this one would be Home Together, Lost in Dysfunction.
Yes.
Because everything's out of whack and we don't even know where we are in our own, psyche at this point when it comes to all that craziness taking place. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess one thing that I would talk about with respect to the idea of going somewhere, especially if you're going to somewhere. Typically, we go somewhere because we want to connect with loved ones and be in their presence and stuff. Is we probably do need to prep ourselves and prep them, for our visit. And, I guess, dare I suggest, the benefit of having somebody with neurodiversity is you have a label to put on something to then talk about, to work through this possible scenario and script with your relatives. Like, some things that you could possibly do is like maybe send an email or actually have a conversation with them. Like, I wrote a couple like bullet points that I think would be of value to our listeners to consider if you are, going to visit relatives, especially if you have neurodiverse people in your family. So I'll just run.
That could be a tricky conversation, right? I mean,
Oh
especially
my
if we have
gosh.
our own anxiety about our relationships with our parents.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to speak up for yourself, and in those situations, and it could be stressful for us to be put back in that childhood mentality,
Right.
and it can make all these techniques go out the window. I'm
Yeah.
just speaking from personal experience, JJ.
you're hitting everybody to their core right now by saying
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, but
Some
I'm
personal
curious to hear
experience
these.
across the whole board.
Well, I'm curious to hear these questions you've got prepped, because I'm going to be like, that's useful. And then when it comes time to
Yeah.
implement them into my own conversations, I'm going to have a panic attack. So,
Yeah, well, so I mean, I would like to, discuss this as, from both perspectives too, like the person who's bringing up the courage or getting the courage to say some of these things, and what should we interpret, as somebody who's receiving the message, how should we interpret that? Because I think a lot of times it's so easy to go back into, defending our own, ego in that, because we lose sight of what the point of this, conversation is supposed to be about to begin with. So, I mean, it's I go back to what I said a little bit ago too, is every single person is an individual, regardless of what you have for a label that, comes with your genetic makeup. You are still an individual and you express yourself in the way that you decide to express yourself based on who you are. So all those things kept in mind become of value when we step back and breathe and think about that. So I just put down some bullet points as to ways to engage the people that you're going to visit, especially your parents. Let's just be honest. The grandparents, they'll want to weigh in on their many generations past approach to parenting. Let's just see how we can handle that. So here's bullet point number 1. We are all excited to have a good time together. Here's what I would love from you to my family in order for that to become successful. So, I'm not telling people this is what you have to say, but here's a way to get the get the conversation started. To expand upon that, bullet point 2 is here's what our day tends to look like, and here's what our family looks like in that. So building up like a situation, a scenario where you're basically explaining here's how it looks when we're at our day to day. The third bullet point I said, the change in routine and level of excitement will be at times overwhelming. And here are some things we say and do to help moments of heightened sensation. Because let's be honest, there is a lot of overwhelm, whether you're opening presents or everybody's sitting around the table, passing stuff around. The kids are just, they're bickering about something like
Yeah, I'm used to everybody talking at the same time. My parents
yeah.
are not used to five people talking over each other. They haven't tuned into that frequency to be able to hear everything that's going on, and it's just sound overload to them, you know?
Yeah, and that's a tough situation. So what do you do to prep them for that? Sometimes I guess it is simply saying like this is what it looks like. We as a family come together in this way based on those situations, and sometimes the kids just simply need their time and space to get the energy out. So sitting at the table as a 65-year-old person is going to look much different than sitting at the table as an 8-year-old person. So giving some understanding and grace to the idea that a kid doesn't usually want to sit still for so long, especially when they're in the presence of the people they don't see every day and have so many thoughts going through their mind of how they want to, explore that relationship in those moments. As neurodiverse people, sometimes, we either have two things going on. It's either now or not now, and both are pretty intense. So, so when a parent is like, I just want to calmly get through, well, that ADHD brain is like either now this or not now this. So having to give some grace to that is very important. And how do we have that conversation with ourselves and expectations? That's a tough one. So individual family members being prepped is really important in that, so they understand the now and not now mentality. And then another bullet point is if you're feeling overwhelmed or concerned, I'd love for you to talk with me about it rather than with my kids, because we really want that tension to be handled with the adults first so we can understand each other. That
Mm.
way the adults aren't bringing that to the kids, because again, like we've talked about, essentially when you bring your tension to the kids or your anxiety to the kids, you're basically saying like, your anxious behavior or your behavior is making me anxious and I'm uncomfortable, and I'm letting you know that I am not regulating myself here, and therefore the kids aren't feeling safe.
I'm
So,
going to push back on this for a minute, JJ,
yeah, buddy.
because this is a strategy that I want to employ myself, right? But I know that if I set that filter up in our dynamic, I'm going to be the one that needs emotional regulation because I'm going to be running the middleman through
Yeah,
that
yeah.
relationship. So
Right.
I agree in the sense of like, protect the kids from maybe some of the trauma that you have experienced or, that you are still working through that you had in your childhood. But I also believe in still letting our family know that it's their responsibility to regulate themselves. I think that what you're saying is perfectly acceptable, but I would just maybe add a cliff note to that of, if you're having a hard time controlling your own emotions or tone of your voice, then come to me. So that way I'm still giving them, look, try to deal with it yourself in a respectful way. Okay. Because, I don't want to run interference, but if you feel that you can't or are unable to do that, then come to me. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. And I'm only adding that cliff note because I'm sitting here like strategizing myself of like, what are the boundaries that I could set, to avoid this? And that seems like a healthy one at the surface level, but I know from experience when I've done that in the past that it could be detrimental to my own emotional regulations. And don't worry, JJ, we'll cut all the dog barking out.
Who would
Do
have
that in
thought
post.
we started talking in this episode like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit noisy. There's stuff going on at Colton's house, and here's my dog barking. But yeah, I mean that's really important to take note of that. Like it would be of utmost value to everybody if you can at first take time for yourself before bringing this to somebody else. Yes, I completely agree. I think the thing is the idea of protecting our neurodiverse kids from a third party, or a relative coming in, not really truly understanding them and maybe mistreating them in response because they haven't regulated themselves. And then when they are at that point, if you can say, hey, first, I would like for you to talk with me, that gives them the opportunity, hopefully, to center themselves, because instead of being overwhelmed in the situation with the kiddo and then therefore bringing that overwhelm to the kiddo, they think, oh, shoot, I want to respect the boundary that has been set forth by their parents first, to talk with them about it. And of course, the reason behind that is hopefully the kids trust their parent the most. And so the discipline coming from that parent is most safely understood when it's coming from that parent as opposed to coming from somebody else, So if something's going challenging, instead of saying, grandma, this, I'm having an issue with my brother, or grandpa, my sister's being difficult. And then, they're trying to find somebody else to essentially control the situation for them. If they always have that point person, their parent, where they trust the most, to come in and work with them in the situation, that's of incredible value. Now, of course, like you said, we would like our kids to be able to work that out themselves. We don't want to simply, whenever they have an issue, they just come running and hoping somebody sides with them in every moment. But, the idea is, of course, if we can talk this out and work this out before it leads to a greater escalation, that is ideal. And we know in visiting with relatives, like, escalation is part of the it's part of the meal. It's the main course sometimes, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. There's always family drama, right? There's always the outspoken uncle that offends somebody or something sitting across from the table. But I think it's for me, one of my biggest tools going into this for prepping how I'm going to react and the expectations that I'm setting forth for myself is, I try to get away from the anxiety as much as I can. And I know I'm joking about, having panic attacks and stuff, trying to have these conversations. But, honestly, I try to go into it as like, this is the big show, right? Like, this is the opportunity to go and set and practice all of these techniques and everything that we learn on this podcast and from our guests and the books that we read. This is what we train for, right? Like, this is it. So instead of trying to have anxiety about it, it's like, okay, great. How can I implement this? How can I set myself up for it? What are some things that I could prep? How can I look at this in a different way? When this arises, how can I recognize the workup to, nip it in the bud rather than letting it just, spiral and control me. So that's a big help. We've done past podcasts about the story that we tell ourselves, and if we can switch that, for these times, I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable for everyone. And there's going to be things, right? They're going to come up, but like, how can you think about those things now before they come up? So when they do, you're not blindsided, you're not overwhelmed. You have a strategy that you've thought about. You have something to lean back on. We fall back on our training, so if we're too wrapped up in the anxiety and stress of everything that can go wrong, that's going to distract us from the safety net that we have of, if we just think about this and structure it and plan it, we can get through it. So, like I said, I'm joking about the anxiety and stress here, but I'm also kind of excited to have this opportunity, because the last time that, we brought the kids there wasn't a lot of structure and planning. It was like, let's just go see how this goes, and now we maybe know some things, that we need to ask beforehand and, set up the structure. This is our routine. This is what our day usually looks like, and my parents have been very intentional about that too, with just the little things of what do the kids eat, what are the snacks, because that was the big thing when we went there last time. I don't like going to grandma and grandpa's, they don't have any of the snacks that I like, so grandma and grandpa made the effort, they went out and got the snacks, so that's one thing on the checklist we can tick away here to not stress about.
I remember having oat bran at my grandma's. Oat bran cereal. No kids
my
thinking.
My stepmom is Ovaltine. The kids are like, can I have chocolate milk? And they're like, what's this crap you've given me? This chalky substance.
Isn't Ovaltine supposed to be in warm water or milk anyways too? So it's just, that would make it even more chalky if you don't even warm it up.
Exactly. It's chunky, man. You never could get all of the molecules to dissolve. It was the worst. I hate it. And cream of wheat, she was no oatmeal. It was cream of wheat and Ovaltine, man. It was horrible.
Throw enough butter and brown sugar in the cream of wheat, then maybe it'll be
You
tolerable.
know, and the fruit bowl is prunes, and you know.
We had the Del Monte fruit bowl sometimes where it was like that one lone cherry in there. You're wondering why the hell that's in there, and everything kind of just blends together. It's just a mix of I don't know what the hell. I mean, no offense to the people who put in all the effort to figure that stuff out, but it's weird to me now. It's weird. I like buying fresh produce, but anyways, back on to the topic. I wanted to ask you a question. So you know, you know to expect the unexpected, but what does that really? How do you prepare for that? Let's just be honest. You're going to come into a situation where one kid says, "I want this," the other kid says, "I want this," and maybe the one with ASD is like completely hyper focused, laser focused on this one thing, and that is not at all within the realm of maybe hardly within the realm of possibilities for this particular trip or day. How do you work through that? And then I'll just be honest, like because I know myself and all of my history with my family, I get that feeling. I get that feeling in me where I'm just getting more tense because part of my, I'm not physically looking their direction, but part of me is like my mind is looking that direction to see, oh crap, how are they going to respond to this? Now, how am I going to deal with this and my kiddo at the same time when I know they're feeling the nails on the chalkboard over here while my kid is feeling uneasy and unhappy and not feeling safe or heard because he's had this on his mind and now it's being disrupted by what the majority wants to do. And even if I had a conversation with him prior to that, so we know what to expect, that doesn't mean he's going to be like, okay, well, cool. I'm just going to follow that plan because I'm a perfect angel and I just do whatever the hell everybody tells me what to do. It could be that something comes in their mind. How do we handle that situation? And how do we let go of what outside perspective is trying to tell us, especially with family and our many, many years of history together?
Yeah, for me, something that I've really been incorporating over the last couple of weeks, not even just with the family holiday travel stuff, but in when I notice these moments with our oldest, we've created kind of like a safe phrase or a safe word, which is, do you want to go talk about your feelings? Or do you want to go reset together? Something like that, whatever, you guys are comfortable with. And I think that when she can come to me, and she has, which I think is a great thing. Usually I'm the one that's like, do you want to go talk about feelings? And she's too caught up in her feelings and will say, no, I just want to be left alone, But if you wait long enough, a minute or two after that, she'll come and go, I want to talk about my feelings, So I think like creating some sort of space of like, no matter what's going on with family members, with siblings, with you, if you can have that talk beforehand of like, if I notice you getting emotional, I'll say this and we'll go take some time out. Or if you feel like you aren't getting what you want and you're having a hard time controlling your emotions, you can come say that to me. And no matter what I'm doing, we'll go find the quiet space and we'll work through it together. So I think just like the safety of prepping our kids with, I'm here for you, no matter how scary this looks in a different environment, or with people that you may not be familiar with, or routines that you may not be familiar with. I'm here, and just keep that in mind. So prep our kids with the same conversations too. This may be a little difficult, this may be a little different, but I'm here anytime you want to talk about that.
I love that, buddy, because that really is showing, a specific or it's indicating specifically to that kid a message of incredible value that they have and that you really are there to understand and hear them and you are acknowledging like not only just the current situation but possible future situations that you want to work with them and when they are feeling something because that's that safety that's the arms wrapped around them now and in the future that you have their back and that it doesn't mean that they're going to walk all over you and I believe that teaches them that you're not going to have them walk all over you too. So I really want to acknowledge that. And then if I can ask a question a little bit further along that line, let's say there is a planned event, you know, and the one kid is just like not feeling it, and it's like this kid is not going to be able to make the day work for themselves, let alone the people around them going through with this event. What are the drawbacks to saying, all right, parent one or parent two is going to hang back with kiddo, and the rest of them are going to go and have probably an awesome day together? What are the drawbacks of doing that?
I think, we talked about a lot about our own anxiety with our relationships with our parents and the expectations that they have and the expectations that we put on ourselves and how we want to appease them. So I think that goes a long way into how we handle these situations and how we maybe put our kids in a situation that we know may be disruptive or that is going to cause problems because we have that anxiety anyways. And I think about what we talk about a lot on this podcast is how do we still have those conversations despite the anxiety? Because they're important, right? Like we talked about boundaries, and you have to be able to set them for yourself, and not only for yourself, but for your kids who can't really vocalize their boundaries or know, where they are in relation to their own feelings. So we have to be very conscious of that. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with stepping away from the planned family activities to, be present for the bigger picture, which is our kiddos' well-being and safety and emotions. So, I don't, as hard as that is, I would definitely challenge, parents to figure out what that may look like when that does come up and what they're going to do and how they're going to go about it and how they're going to respond to those guilt spirals that may be put on us either verbally or subconsciously by ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm picturing a scenario in my head right now. Like, oh, there's this relative, this parent, it will voice to us, "I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that this, and it could be that they didn't choose to step into our shoes and think, well, had they not done that with their kiddo, and would have brought kiddo with, if that's the scenario we're talking about, and that kiddo could have felt unhappy and unsafe the whole day, and everybody could have just been coming home, like everybody's just kind of staring down, except for the driver, of course. Everybody's just staring down in the car because they're miserable because of how difficult the day was. And I'm not saying the neurodiverse kid is going to be a guarantee wreck to the day, but it will change how the situation goes down. So if a relative does express their disappointment, honestly, I'll just say this much. I believe that everybody can practice this if this becomes your situation, is to say, thank you for thinking of the family. Thank you for the care. I appreciate it. And then move the hell on from that conversation, because you did your part to protect yourself, protect your kids, and protect the people involved. That's my honest, like, quick advice to anybody who runs into that situation where the guilt trip comes. Like, you can have a quick way out if you put your effort into it, and you don't have to feel bad about it because you did what you felt was good in the situation, and you cared enough to understand your kid to the point you can understand them, and you made them feel safe.
Well, we were talking before we pressed record on this, and you said some phrasing that I really liked that to kind of combat disapproving opinions, of our parenting style with neurodivergent kids. And that was, what my kid needs right now, or, what looks best for my kid right now. Or, maybe you can phrase it better because I'm butchering it, I
Hmm.
feel. But I feel
No,
like that.
you're on the right line there. Go ahead.
No, no, no. What was the phrasing that you put it in
Well,
so I can
I
finish my
think
thought?
Yeah, and I think this is one of the quickest ways for somebody bringing in their external, like, thoughts and opinions on this, for them to see it and to really, like, let it soak in, is to say, well, what what kind of parent does my child need right now?
There it is. Yeah. And I think that can be good for, whether it's what we're talking about in guilt of missing an activity or not participating in a function, to sorry, little one's coming in here. What's up, bud?
Hey,
What do you
buddy.
need?
I hurt my leg.
You hurt your leg?
Oh,
You want to come in and say hi real quick? It's okay. It's okay.
we have a special guest. Yes.
Yeah, here, take the dog, and I'll take the child.
Listeners, this is what it's all about right here.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of life. I love it. It is why we do what we do. Look
Say
at that.
hi, Caden, to our listeners. He's got his chips.
You got some
He's-
chips.
Yeah, he's ready to go. Snack time.
Getting that savory in there.
Okay,
Oh man, he's
I'll
proud of
open
those
this.
lays. Oh, he wants to just pour them in his mouth, so he's getting them ready.
Yeah. Here, if you hear crunching, that's what that is.
That's a guarantee.
But I think that phrasing can work well for, you hear the crunching. that can work well for, displacing some of that guilt in the moment of not going to a family function. And it can also help with the opinions where, you should be more strict on him, or you should do this, or that feedback that we get from family members. I think, what kind of parent does my child need right now is a really good question to not only ask our family members, but ourselves too, when we feel those emotions rising up.
Well, let's be honest. When we feel our feelings of sadness, when we're in our deep place of not feeling safe, and we're scared, and we're whatever it is, we're to the point of tears. That's when we really, really need, or would really desire, to have somebody who sees us and is just there for us. So when we ask the question in that way, I think that brings that into focus more than any kind of statement, because often what happens in those situations of escalation, or just frustration or tears, is that what is it, the screaming child on the plane is something that everybody's probably familiar with, that cliche. You feel tense, you don't feel comfortable, and you want it to stop. So when you are saying that to yourself, you're saying, I want this, I want that, I want this, I demand this. Oh, if I can get rid of this, then I can be doing better. And so all of that is me focused. As soon as I say, what does my child need? I've completely thrown that the other direction. And I realize, oh my God, there's somebody in need here. They're struggling. What would I need in that moment? Even if I do come back to saying that, well, now I'm crying. Wouldn't somebody shaming me make me feel better? Telling me to get over this, telling me, oh, I'll be okay. It's not that big a deal. Because my emotions do matter. A lot of times that's what we struggle with relatives, is when they want to weigh in on the situation because they're not feeling well. They're not feeling comfortable. And that's it. So what kind of parent does my kid need? What kind of grandparent does my kiddo need? Let's ask the real question. That's the kid. That's the person crying. That's the person feeling uneasy. Something's not going well for that person. So if they came to that point first, why do I have to all of a sudden be the one that needs to be comforted here?
Yeah, I totally agree, bud. I think that's a powerful question. So I'm going to implement that this weekend. And my third tactic is distraction. Distraction. That's my third and fourth tactic, JJ, is distraction. After this, we're going to go get some coloring activity books and, some drawing utensils for those emotionally regulating moments. And there's a park around the corner that I've mapped out, so we can go burn some energy there. And, because we usually resort to screens when family's here, because it's easy, it gets them quiet. And that's good for a day or two, but then it always falls apart on day 3 or 4,
Yeah, think about too the screens and how kids have such great imagination when you bring them out into the into nature, and they're thinking about, even if they're thinking about the program that they were watching, now they are the program, and what would it do? And their imagination just goes wild. So having those outlets are of utmost importance. I know I grew up in a small town, and I kind of tell myself as an adult, it's so boring. Nothing here to do. And maybe for an adult that could be somewhat true, but to be honest, I never got sick of doing anything and everything with my imagination when I was young in that small town. So those kids, we need to give them credit. They'll come up with some good stuff. Um, to make use of that time outside of screens. And so if we allow for that, yeah, I think they're going to flourish. So let me see. I guess something that I wanted to kind of also bring to light for everybody, not to light, but just to focus on when it comes to this visiting family and your expectations and when things are hard is, again, like I mentioned a moment ago, the idea of, what kind of parent does my child need? Also, if I don't speak up for them, will they experience a loss of safety? So that's really important. It's just to kind of keep that in mind. Like I am there to be, continue to be their protector and to be the person that they look up to. And when things are, a little uncertain, even if they know this family member, things are uncertain, it's important for them to be able to come back to me. But what does it that Coley needs that he mentioned earlier is, it's impossible to know how things will go. So apply some grace, especially to yourself. If you need to give yourself some time to center, do not feel guilty about it. I think that's one thing that we do, whether we're hosting or we're taking our family somewhere for somebody else to host us, is we put this burden on ourselves that we have to have all the answers and everything has to come through us, and we have to provide all the comfort all the time, and then we forget about ourselves in that. So taking that time, if you can get it, so that you can best show up for yourself and your family, super important. And man, it's hard. I'll tell you, as a single dad, going to visit family and then wanting that time to myself. And my kiddo, he is one that wants to cling to dad all the time. Like me getting that space and feeling comfortable with him, with my family sometimes, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I don't always feel good about the idea of getting time to myself. So it's a tough balance. And I got to admit, I got to give myself some grace. So, and then honestly, dude, I'll tell you the last one that I wrote this bullet point. It's okay to consider not going to visit family. Honestly, like, have you ever had that message like, hey, what are you guys doing for the family? We don't have any plans, so we're free. And if your first response is, oh, shoot, then you probably need to evaluate what this could look like. And do I need to talk about keeping distance? That's not a bad thing, guys. If you have a history over and over of things just not going well, either apply some of these tactics we talked about now, or simply give yourself the right to say no, to say, I love the idea of us getting together. It doesn't feel right at this time, or whatever it is. It's okay. If you know it's too much for you to take on emotionally, that's you doing yourself a favor, acknowledging yourself, giving yourself some grace and understanding. So I know that sounds a little harsh sometimes, but if you want to say no, maybe that's the best thing for you to do.
No, brother, I completely agree. We have to have the confidence and the power to say no, and set those boundaries for ourselves. And, these tactics don't always work for every family dynamic and situation. So, you have to know thyself and know thy kids and know what kind of relationship is possible. Are you done crunching over here, mister?
No.
No. Well, we got a good survey sample here. You can ask the man himself. What makes you feel better when you're feeling sad?
Potato chips.
What makes you feel better when you're sad? No, just eating.
Put on the spot.
Yeah, feeling camera shy. When you're upset, what makes you feel good, huh? Playing with cars, hug, food. What makes you feel good? I guess just Lay's potato chips right now. Boy, when I hit mute, he goes off and he won't stop talking. When I hit the mute button, he just sits here.
Well, I'll tell you, yesterday, a kiddo had to come to my place because his mom was feeling pretty sick. And he always wants to bring like every single thing that is his from his mom's over here. And it's funny. I'm telling you, I don't know how many times his mom has said, Cohen, we got to limit it. We got to limit how many things you take from place to place. We're going to limit it. We can't keep doing this. Still doing it. Can't keep doing this. But anyways, he brought 2 stuffed animals, which I'm telling you, we could start a zoo. We could start a zoo of plushies. It's insane. We got to get rid of some of these things. It's just ridiculous. He's even got like some where it's like, here's the big one, here's the little one. I mean, it's ridiculous. So guys, I'm just telling you, a bad parenting that I did is I bought too many plushes. I think it's ridiculous. But anyways,
well, I got a funny story for you before we go, but go ahead and finish up first, and I'll tell you what.
So he brings this plush, and of course the plush looks an awful lot like a dog toy. And my puppy's like, I'm gonna destroy that thing. She's just eyeing that thing, and he comes in the door with it, and he's down here. He's low. He can't carry it up here like I can. And she got a hold of it for a second and pulled it, and I got her back, and so she had it in her mouth for like a second. And poor kiddo was just not in a state where he could handle that easily, and he just started crying big tears. And of course, my first thought was like, dude, the thing is fine. Holy crap, I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. But what did I do? I know what helps. A lot of times he just needs that hug. Our kids love hugs. Guys, hugs are free. Hugs are so easy to give out, and they are priceless at the same time in all the good ways. Give those kids a hug. I don't think there's one kid out there that says, yeah, the 5 love languages thing, physical touch isn't a thing for me. I can't stand that. No, most kids really love it until they're conditioned otherwise, until some sort of trauma occurs in their lives where that physical touch is no longer something they want. Yeah, they want your love. They want your physical touch. So give them a hug. That's a huge part of helping them feel safe, guys. So when you're at the relatives, let's just say grandma starts to weigh in on the situation too much. Just grab your kid and give them a hug. Sometimes it just could seem random, but it still matters.
Yeah, that's usually the answer he gives when I ask what makes you feel better when you're upset is a hug. So I was trying to feed him the line, but he was too camera shy to get the message. But I have a funny story for you too. As a kid, I had way too many plushies, way too many. And I had a fishing net on my roof, and you'd throw the plushies up there. So you'd like release the net, and they'd all rain down. And I had a bunk bed, even though I was an only child. But just the top bunk. The bottom bunk was just nothing. It was like a play area. You would like drape a blanket over it, and I would turn it into a fort, and I'd play with my Legos and my toys in there. And there was a nightlight that was plugged into the wall. And I used to, like, as a comfort thing, release all my plushies from the ceiling and pull them into the bunk bed, clubhouse area, and put them close to that nightlight. And they would get warm from the nightlight. And then I would like snuggle them and, get all snuggly with the warmth. And they caught on fire one day, JJ. And I started a fire in my room, and I burned half of my plushies to death.
Oh no,
was
Brownie
tragic.
And Fluffy.
Yeah.
No.
Not to mention almost setting my entire house on fire.
Oh,
so don't put plushies next to hot things is what I learned. So.
The fire department comes through to do the safety inspection. They're like, stuffed animal pile, a fire hazard. Yeah, kiddo, buddy, I'm telling you, when he has a bunk bed too, and when we get in his bed to read at night, the corner where our feet are supposed to lay, like that's piled to the ceiling. So if you ever have if I ever injure my foot and they say elevate your foot, no problem. At the end of the day, reading to my kid, it's elevated, guaranteed. Yeah, so you can't even see the pictures on the wall anymore. It's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Got to do something about that. But either way, it does bring him a sense of safety and love. I'm not gonna lie, he really does value his plushies, and so there is something to that. But yeah, I think we need to downsize a little bit there.
Well, brother, I think we should call this one short because, like I said, I got a full house. Little one keeps coming in here telling me he's hungry and bored. So I'm going to have to cater to him. But
hey, you know what? That is a beautiful thing. That little kid looks up to you so much that he's like, I know Coley has the answer to this boredom I've got going on. That is amazing, brother. So take that as a gift that you have given to others, and he has recognized and embraced that fully.
Yeah, man. And thanks for all the good insight here, JJ. I think this was some good stuff. I hope our listeners got a little bit out of this. And, guys, I know the holiday season is a hard time of year. Especially if you're a single father, it can look a lot different than what it once did. So, we do coaching. I don't know if you knew that. But if you guys are struggling in any way with your relationship with your kids or your spouse or your ex or your family, we do have some really great strategies that, we would love to share with you guys and that we have found very helpful in our own lives. So, sometimes the hardest thing you got to do is pick up a phone and ask for help. So, but if you're in that season, please reach out. We want you to live good, intentional lives and have legendary relationships with your kiddos. So hope you guys enjoy the holidays, get fat with your turkey and all those carbs. I've been working hard in the gym, thanks to Coach Ray, trying to make some room. So, I'm not going to feel guilty this year. You need fat to burn fat. So fat turns into muscles, buddy. So I'm making some extra room and I'm hitting it hard so I can enjoy myself.
Yeah, buddy. I have no excuse. I'm not going to visit family this year. So if I eat poorly, that's on me. But yeah, I've been keeping up with the workouts. He's got me every single day doing leg day now. I do other exercises on top of that, but man, I'm telling you, the back, that is getting pushed down. I don't know if I'm gaining inches on my muscles yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm losing inches in height with how much weight I'm putting on my shoulders. It feels good, and it also feels terrible at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, I do too, man. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, JJ and I have started a fitness journey with Coach Ray King at Cloverleaf Fitness. JJ's getting the website built for him, but you can find him on Instagram, Ray King Savage Dad. He's also on Facebook, Ray King. Cloverleaf Fitness is on Facebook there, and we've got a submission form that we'll put in the show notes for you if you guys are interested in starting that holiday fit journey or those New Year's resolutions early. Get on board with JJ and I, man. We'll support you. Coach Ray will give you great programs and accountability, and we'd love to just kind of see your progression and your journey alongside of ours because we're loving it, man. It's hard work, but loving it. But check that out at the ADHDads.com or Cloverleaf Fitness. And thank you guys for tuning in. Happy holidays. I'm your host, CJ.
And I'm JJ.
And this has been another episode of the ADHDads. See you next time.